Alrighty then. Hey guys, I'm LDC and welcome to day 6 of my Agrarian Skies 2-week challenge. So today I've been a pretty busy bee. You can see that all this is looking pretty different. Everything's been more or less wiped out and replaced with better equivalents. We're going to go over that in just a little bit, but first we're going to do the news, I guess. Cover the news. First order of business is that the wolves are dead. They're gone. I don't like to talk about it, but they're not coming back. Also, I died again. You can see I've died twice because I went AFK to get a sandwich, got distracted by some things happening in my kitchen. Was gone for about an hour and had come back to a starved to death character. So you can see I've died, for more info, twice, once to monsters and once to starvation. The other fun bit of news was that spawn blizz egg I got from a reward bag that I was very excited about. Well, it was a trick. It was in fact a blaze that had been renamed with a name tag or some such to spawn blizz. Very, very clever, Jaded. I'd been tricked. A blizz would have been pretty handy right now. Usually, the way to spawn a blizz is to get it as an actual quest reward by completing the gelid cryotheum quest, by which point you probably don't really need it. But that got me sort of thinking, what other of these spawn eggs is completely ruined? So if you see here, the spawn chicken and spawn silverfish are both in italics, whereas the spawn mushroom and spawn pig are not. So if we go over here, we can spawn a pig. So that works fine, because the non-italics ones are... There's a mushroom. The non-italics ones are legit. We can see here, though, the chicken and the silverfish are in italics. If we were to actually look up spawn chicken, for example, you can see that it's a red spawn egg in this texture pack, whereas here the spawn chicken is black and the spawn silverfish is red. If I were to look up spawn silverfish, you can see that that is black. So it looks to me like they've been swapped around. So if I were to take the silverfish and spawn it someplace, then in theory it should just be a chicken. I'm a bit nervous. I should have built a platform to do this on. There we go. It's a chicken called spawn silverfish. That means I don't have a blizz though, and I won't be spawning these chickens anytime soon. Also the blizz... Oh, don't fall in there, guys. Don't do that. Oh, this is... They'll be fine. The blizz I got, I captured in a safari net and then lost that with a bunch of other stuff when I died. Seriously, just... Oh, he's fine. He's fine, he's fine, he's fine. So, I'm pretty sure that covers more or less all the news. We're going to go through some of these factory things now, just to show you what I've been up to. First of all, behind the Mac here, in a separate room, I've started up some of this, some of the basis of my factory setup. So we've just got 8 extruders pumping into the ME system, and they're going straight into a deep storage unit. This is 8 out of the 512 that I'll be needing to build pretty soon in order to put together the 240 million cobblestone by the end of 14 days. So this space is going to need to be filled with extruders pretty soon. Also pumping into the system, I've just got water and lava. That's netherrack I've set on fire to speed up these crucibles, but they're still terribly slow, so I've added more lava upstairs. To this, I've just added a fluid crafting chamber, and all that's in there right now is the Enderium blend recipe. We can see with the Enderium blend, it requires a bucket of resonant ender to make this blend. With this setup here, instead of using the bucket, it just uses the liquid straight out of my ME system. So in my fluid terminal, you can see I've got 100 buckets of resonant ender stored. So it's just going to use that without having to make a bucket of resonant ender to make the Enderium. So I've upgraded this a little bit. We've got a bunch of 64K drives, a bunch more extra, as you can see, liquids, some milk, some destabilized redstone, some some mob essence, so that's just a bunch of extra drives. We come around here now to this sort of intimidating prospect. This is the system I'm using to pretty much do everything. You can keep buffers of all the items that I need. So as a basic example, here at the back we have this, which is set to, when I have less than 10,000 gravel, pump cobble into a pulverizer. So that's just going to keep going until I have 10,000 gravel. It's the same with sand, then the same with glass, and even dust I'm keeping in storage. So you can see we've got more or less the same thing here. Silicon. If I've got less than 1,000 silicon, it's going to put Sirtis quartz dust in here, so I'm always going to have the silicon. The same with processors, so any of these ME processors. The system is going to craft the base processor, because it knows how to in the Mac, and then jam those into the redstone furnace to cook them up and keep me a buffer of those. I've got some glacial precipitators here, which you can't actually access, so I'll access from the front. So set to making snow and ice, so I've got 5,000 ice in storage, cooking up nether brick, making wood chips for paper, sawdust for, I don't even remember why I'm making sawdust, making sure I've got the appropriate quartz dusts. I'm pumping lava and water into these here extruders as well to make obsidian and smoothstone, and turning off the water tap when I've got enough. So 500 obsidian, 500 smoothstone. Smoothstone is made in here just by adding water constantly. It doesn't need any extra lava. So once that water's back on, the smoothstone will start forming, so I don't have to cook any cobble. More or less the same thing along here, nothing particularly interesting. Most of my platinum will be turned into platinum dust in this pulverizer, because I'm mainly using it for Enderium blend. Some extra machines here are making lava by pumping cobble in, actually just constantly. Just pumping cobble in constantly, because it's set limited by these. All my fluid storage cells are partitioned precisely. So if I were to put another blank cell in here, it would start filling up with lava, excess lava and water, but they're all partitioned to be whitelisted to the particular liquid that I want to keep. And that's, I'm just going to grab this mushroom, and that's because it's very easy to flood your ME network otherwise. There are other ways you can get around that, but very easy to flood with some kind of fluid and not leave any space for anything else to happen. So they're all partitioned. And at the back here, I'm just using these ME fluid level emitters to emit a signal when I've got less than 100 buckets of resin and ender, and currently 50 buckets of destabilized redstone. So they're going to pump the redstone and the ender pearls into the magma crucibles, melt it down, and throw it out into these fluid interfaces. So over here, we've got some induction smelters doing all our alloys, so bronze, invar, electrum, and again set to level emitters, so I can fiddle with these numbers later. If I want more electrum in my system, I just come along here and turn it up, and it's going to jam more silver and gold into my induction smelter and make more electrum. I'll leave it there. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Here I'm just making slag really by throwing sand and any pulverized lead I get out of my laser drill, which I'll be covering in a minute, through this induction smelter instead of cooking it regularly. That means I can get slag, which was also, I believe, why I was getting the sawdust, because I later want to make some florbs. Just singular florb, which is slag, sawdust, and I'm going to be using slime balls to make some florbs. We've got some other machines here. I believe I had a system over here for pulverizing obsidian. Yes, here it is. And that's going in here with some lead to keep me in stock of hardened glass. The Enderium is going in here with this pyrotheum dust I'm making, and I'm sort of making that over there with the pulverized coal and such to keep me in stock of Enderium. It's a low stock right now, I'll turn that up later. Same with conduits. It's crafting empty conduits throwing them in the transposer with all this destabilized redstone I'm pumping in here, and outputting full usable conduits until I have 2 stacks worth, and then it'll turn itself off. The Tesseract frames system I have here is a little bit different. This is how people usually set up their ME processing, by putting an interface on top of the machine with the pattern inside it. So it treats this as a crafting recipe. You try and craft the Tesseract frame, and it puts a empty Tesseract frame in here, and would fill it up with resonant ender. This has pros and cons. So basically what it is it's slow. You call for your item, and it has to make it for you right then and there. If I were to actually grab an empty frame, like so, just make one of these, and throw it in the thing, this in particular is quite slow, but it's the same for anything really. If you were doing this with the interface and the pattern for, say, your processors, and you wanted to make like an export bus, it would have to cook all the processes and such for you, and it would take a while. So I prefer to keep buffers. The disadvantage of my system is, say over here, when there are less than 64 processes in the system, it's going to make blank ones, or uncooked ones, and jam them in here, and it's only going to stop doing that when there's 64 in the system. However, because, and I'm just going to turn this up to show you, because, oh, I already have 128, 192, 256, there we go. Because it takes a while to cook, you can see it just jams these in willy-nilly. And it's going to keep jamming them in until enough have come out, by which point it will have built up a stack in here. So it keeps itself. You end up with having a whole extra stack of the stuff. So while you keep stuff in your system in decent buffers and decent piles so that you can use them when you want, you generally end up making too much. So with Tesseract frames, I didn't want that. I didn't want a stack of full Tesseract frames lying about, because that seemed like much a waste. So I did this system. However, in order to speed it up, what I've done here is I've had an export bus going into the interface, and it's set active with signal and always craft. Here, this receives a signal when there's less than 10 Tesseract frames in the system. So what that effectively means is I'm doing more or less the same thing. It's a little more complicated, but it means that when there are less than 10, this guy is going to try and craft them until there are. When it tries to craft them, this system is triggered. It throws one Tesseract frame into the fluid transposer to fill it with ender and make a regular Tesseract frame, a full Tesseract frame. At which point this number goes down by 1, and so it keeps doing that until it's got 10. So this is a little bit more complicated, requiring a few more components, but it keeps me a buffer of 10 full Tesseract frames in my system at all times. Right, we've got also here, I'll go over the unifier actually. The unifier here, when I switched from sieved resources to laser drill resources, there's a couple of, namely copper and tin, switched types. They went from the Tinker's Construct ingot and started instead producing the thermal expansion copper ingot, which is a bit irritating for things like my molecular assembler chamber. And I also had a bunch of leftover copper and such that I wanted to get rid of and turn into the new thermal expansion copper. So the same deal was with tin. So I've been throwing those in the unifier, which is set to thermal expansion and tin preferences. You can also see here I've got gold dust going in. The laser drill produces two kinds of gold, regular gold ore and nether gold ore. When you pulverize gold ore, you get thermal expansion pulverized gold. When you pulverize nether gold ore, you get a different kind. So I throw the applied energistic stuff also through the unifier. One issue with this is when you change over to different kinds of ingots like this, sometimes the molecular assembly chamber gets confused. So I have a bunch of recipes that require copper ingots. Suddenly, if I'm using a different kind of copper ingot, it can't make them anymore. So in order to fix that, I have to go through and change all the copper ingot recipes. To make that easier for myself, because it's a bit of a pain, I can double-click my NEI copper ingot setting to highlight all the recipes that are using copper ingots. So I can take them all out and change over the ingots much more easily, and this way I don't miss anything. And I don't have to look and check each item individually. So I go through and do that. Right, also over here, in order to keep me in stock of clay balls and therefore, regular Minecraft bricks, I've just got this system here. So this is vaguely complicated, but that's okay. So we got barrels constantly full of water from some export buses. Here they are. Fluid export buses pumping in water. These are going to pump dust in if I have less than 2 stacks of regular clay. And then that's going to be pumped out by these import buses, so that keeps me in a stock of clay. Then I pump that hardened clay into the autonomous activator here, set to right click, which places it. It's also set to first slot only, and I've filled up the rest with cobble, so I don't waste clay by filling this with 9 stacks of it. Then this autonomous activator is being filled with iron hammers that the molecular assembly chamber is making, set to left click and requiring a redstone signal to work. It gets a redstone signal when I have less than 500 clay balls in my ME system, at which point it is going to whack this clay that this is put down. The vacuum hopper is going to put it up and jam it in the system. So if I were to take all my clay out, it's going to start hitting it with the hammer. This is going to suck it up, and it's just going to keep going until I've replenished my clay supplies. This is really only important for keeping me in stock of bricks. So I have a furnace over here making bricks, this one here. And so it needs the clay balls to do that. Also for things like porcelain clay and such. Nothing too fancy. It's possibly overkill, but I wanted it all to be automatic. Right, so up here we have the rest of the factory. This is the ore processing part. This is where all the outputs of the laser drill are going to come. And I've made kind of a scalable system here, because later I want way more laser drills. So the way this works is I have a bunch of interfaces here. This isn't part of the system, we'll get rid of that. I have a bunch of interfaces here. Now each of these is full of a stack of each kind of ore that I'm getting out of the system that needs pulverizing. And we ran out down the end here, we've got some spare space. These aren't actually stacks, these are just sort of ghost items. What that means is whenever I have any of these ores, it's going to make them available in the exported items section here. And this item duct is going to pump them out into this chain of pulverizers. So I've currently got the capacity to run 10 pulverizers all at once on whatever items I get coming through. So each pulverizer does 1 item every 2 seconds, so I'm doing 5 items a second. Currently, 1 laser drill produces an item every 8 seconds. So I'm well capable of dealing with 1 laser drill. I can deal with many more. Which is what I need, because I need a lot of resources to complete some of these quests coming up. So I've got a similar deal over here, except it's a little bit smaller, because really all I'm cooking up is the yellorium, some of these metals, and not lead, because of course that's going in my induction smelter downstairs. Here we've got a separate item. Tin is the one dust, as it were, the pulverized version of which I need to make Enderium blend. All of these I can just cook, it's not a big deal. This I need to keep a stock of dust so I can make that Enderium blend. So here, this item duct is only going to fire when this level emitter fires, because there's more than 1,000 dust. So as long as I've only when I've got 1,000 dust, is this going to actually cook the rest of the tin? So that's going to keep me in stocks. Right, so you can see I got rid of pretty much everything else. I had pulverizing system and a sieving system and a storage system. I also down here had a huge lava bank and lava generators. So I swapped over to this big reactor instead. I had a bunch of stuff to make a big reactor with, which is jamming 11,000 RF into my network, whereas before I was getting something like 1,000. So I needed that power in order to be able to run all these machines with confidence. Also, because I wasn't using lava for processing anymore, or power, I got rid of all my lava gens. I'm really just using it to make obsidian now. You can see I also got rid of the trees. I was planning to move the trees. I was also planning to expand some of these farms, get some more milk, some more wool going, that sort of thing. I was going to do all that, but then I ran out of redstone, of all things. I never expected to run out of redstone. It's never been a problem once I've got laser drills before, because the redstone ore just gives such good value in the pulverizers. The regular ore gives 6, the nether ore gives 24. You get a hell of a lot of redstone coming in, but I chewed through thousands putting this together, just thousands of redstone. Probably about 10,000 I've eaten today. So I want more redstone, and I want it fast, because without redstone, you can see in my system I have only 200. I had 0 when I started doing this, but I've got about 180. But that's not really, it's not really enough for me. That's not really what I'm after. I want at least a good couple of thousand more, at least, because I need it to make gelid cryothium. I want a lot of gelid cryothium for my big reactor. So you can see the cryothium is just, I need to melt this cryothium dust. So that's redstone right there, but I also need to make blizz powder, which is why I wanted that blizz. I could just farm blizzes and I wouldn't need quite as much redstone to make the blizz powder the way you usually would, which is using 2 redstones worth of stabilized redstone and a snowball to make this, because you need 10 blizz powder, and also each of those takes a regular redstone. That's 30, oh it's 2 actually, 15 redstone just to make 1 bucket of this cryothium, and I need hella buckets of cryothium. I need so much, it's ridiculous. So I want thousands more redstone, and I'm out. So right now I want to be getting more redstone. So to do that, I'm actually going to do a quest that's quite unrelated. So first I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab this apprentice blood orb. We're going to do that pastoral life. So to do that, I want this fishing rod and these 2 fish with my apprentice blood orb, and that's going to make me a spawn squid egg. There we go. Right on cue. Then I'm going to take this feather from earlier, throw it in my blood altar, which has rudimentary automation that I haven't really done anything with yet. So that's a spawn squid and a spawn chicken. So in my quest book, I can manual detect those and claim my reward of a reward bag. That means I have rose. So I'm going to use this rose. I'm going to take 1 of them and throw them in a pulverizer. Get a bunch of dye, add that to a clay ball to make ceramic dye. Now I want 6 glass panes. I'm going to get 8 glass panes. Whoops. Because we're going to make us some more laser focuses. So if I get with that stained glass pane in there, I'm going to go for the red laser focus, which is over here. I'm out of nuggets. Just a couple of stacks of gold nuggets. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These red focuses are obviously going to target redstone. So I'm going to throw them in my laser drill. Like so. Oh, just real quick actually, I wanted to dispel a myth. Laser drills in this mod pack use half the power of regular laser drills, I guess to counterbalance the fact that you can't mine. I think it's a little broken, to be honest, but there it is. A lot of people have said that that means that you only need 2 pre-charges, because each pre-charger delivers 5000 RF. So if we look at our speeds now, we just kind of, I'm not going to bother timing it, you can kind of look at it and see that speed that's going up. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. So if we get rid of the 2, as has been suggested, you can see that suddenly we're going much slower. Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. About half the pace, surprisingly enough. So I could time that for you if you wanted, but I'm not going to do that. Right, so what we're going to do now is actually just, there's not a lot I can do without redstone. I really just want a hell of a lot more of it to complete this factory, get my jello cryothium going, get my flux electrum blends going, get my farms going, everything needs redstone now, because it's all digital. So instead we're just going to kill some time by doing some quests. I've not been doing a lot of quests, it's not really a priority. Setting up infrastructure is more of a priority. So, it wants a bookbinder, so I can make a bookbinder, one of these basic quests. It's just string and paper. It's pretty cool. Useless book I'm never going to use. What else does it want? It wants a sifter. So I'm going to make a sifter. Cool. More junk. Oh yes, because I died, I have this magical wood in my inventory. Sorry, quick detour. Which just means that this should work. Gosh, I hope I don't lose everything. But yes, it means I lost my reincarnating abilities. So I'm going to reincarnate that. Right, what other quests can we be doing right now? Can't do that. Could be able to do that. I'll try and make a steam dynamo. Honestly don't know if I can do this right now. I might be out of redstone, I might not. Steam dynamo is going to require 2 copper gears and one of these transmission coils. So I'll make sure I've got some of those. Cool. That's a quest done. Now I can do these. Wants me to make a sickle and a sludge boiler. I'll get around to that later. I can do some stuff in Hell's Kitchen. Wants some apple juice. It's time to start getting rid of some of these things that aren't reward bags, because we're going to run out of room pretty quick otherwise. Alright, sorry about that, I had to clean my inventory. We've got our apple juice. I think I may have made too much. Get rid of this cable as well, don't need one. Don't want that, don't want that. Juicing, claim reward, more rewards. I need to make a cutting board. It's the one thing I haven't done yet. Just like so. Now I can complete a bunch of things I've already done. Oh, beautiful song. I don't bother with any more of that. I think there's some stuff in steel powered flight. Deep tank controller I can do pretty easily. I'm not going to bother with these just yet. Right, I think that's us for now. Let's open some reward bags. Oh, some sandwiches. That's pretty cool. I've got about 8 reward bags. I'll clear all that out. And these. Don't want those. So, decorative glass. pretty useless sword that I'm honestly just going to throw away. And again. Some bees. Oh, rainbows! Rainbows for my jetpack. Are you kidding me? How do I use these again? Yeah, shift right click them. I add them in a crafting recipe maybe? Free rainbows. Yeah, you put them under in a shapeless. And now I spread rainbows wherever I go. Lovely. That's cool. A nice golem. Fishing rod. Some lettuce seeds. So yeah, this is why I don't really bother with doing quests and such. Got some silk touch on a sword. Yeah, it's all junk. Because they're usually pretty cranky. Let's see, redstone. 500. About 300 in the last couple of minutes. So I'm going to do some things with that redstone and be back after that. Alrighty, so I was going to build some stuff with some of that redstone, but I realised we're pretty much out of time for this episode, more or less. I can probably squeeze in another 5 minutes. So I just thought I'd go over some things I missed in the last section while I was explaining what I'd done. So first I did throw some milk and water in a barrel, which over time turned into slime, and then over a little bit more time made the actual mob slime. I threw that in my automatic killing room here, which is now full of endermen. I made an enderman with just a creepy doll in a witch water barrel, because I wanted those ender pearls, but it means I have, plenty of slime to do slime-based activities with. And of course plenty of ender pearls. We're up to 3,000 ender pearls. We're also up to 1,700 redstone, nearly 1,800 redstone. Those red laser focuses may have been a bit of overkill, but that's okay. Also obviously over here I got rid of my mob tower. I didn't like it, even though it was in a magical forest biome, which is around here. Which ships with the map. That's kind of why I put it in this general area. But I changed my mind, I don't really want any of that stuff after all. Okay, oh, and I also upgraded this to a tesseract on this laser drill. You saw that earlier, but it's now tesseracting, and this still requires manual work. So, like for example, here this is using 0.15 millibuckets of yellorium a tick. In order to That doesn't really mean a lot. I mean, it's just a number. If you multiply that though by 72, you get yellorium ingots used per hour. So 0.15 times 72 is, I think, a little over 10. So this is 4 hours worth of fuel. At which point as well, I mean, once this is empty, then this is just going to slowly empty, which means power will slowly go down. But it's got a decent amount of power in it, so I'm going to stock that up. Alrighty then. So I think that is really all we have time for today. Tomorrow I'm going to set up these animal farms, get my milk, get my wool going properly, set my tree farms back up because I want a bunch of wood, and start looking at expanding my power supply to power more laser drills, at which point we will possibly finally have the infrastructure and digitize this as well. This is some of the digitized stuff I haven't yet digitized. But at that point we'll finally have the infrastructure we need to start doing some proper quests, to really focus on quests rather than just running through whatever's available. And we'll need to start moving into blood magic and Thorncraft, and finally bees. Get those infrastructures going. But yeah, we are well on track. I'm very confident at this stage that we'll be able to pull through. I'll be honest, I was worried for a little bit there, but I think we're looking pretty good. We're looking pretty good. Alright, so thanks so much for joining me today. My name's been LBC, you've been excellent, and this has been day 6 of my Agrarian Skies 2-week challenge series.